I stood on the precipice of my new life, my chest heavy but resolute. The crisp morning air cut through my thoughts as I gazed out over the bustling city below, a world away from the small town I'd left behind. I turned my back on the familiar skyline, my eyes taking in the high-rise apartment complex I now called home. It was a symbol of my rebirth, a testament to the phoenix I'd become from the ashes of my past life. My past life with him, my ex-husband. A sense of finality washed over me as I closed the door behind me, the echo of the latch a metaphorical period at the end of a tumultuous chapter. My new apartment was a sanctuary, filled with the soft light of dawn that filtered through the sheer curtains. The furniture, sparse but elegant, was a reflection of my newfound solitude. I made a cup of coffee, the aroma serving as a comforting constant in my world upturned. My world now. His absence was felt in every corner, but I didn't let it consume me. I chose to thrive in the space he left behind, a testament to my resilience. I was done being the woman he had made me believe I was weak, dependent, insignificant. I was so much more. My new job was demanding but rewarding, a stark contrast to my days spent as a housewife. I worked in a chic publishing office, the atmosphere buzzing with creativity and ambition. I thrived under the pressure, reveling in the satisfaction that came with each successful project. My colleagues respected me, an unfamiliar but welcomed sensation. During my lunch break, I often sat at a nearby park, watching the world go by. I loved seeing the city, vibrant and alive, each person a story waiting to be told. I was a part of this world now, not just a spectator. I was no longer just my ex-husband's wife, I was me. One day, I met a man at the park. He was a single father, gentle and kind, the polar opposite of my ex-husband. We began to spend more time together, our bond strengthening with each conversation. It was a slow burn, our relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. I wasn't looking for love, but it seemed to have found me, a new path uncharted and exciting. I received an invitation to a reunion, a chance to reconnect with those from my past. My heart pounded at the thought of seeing him again, my ex-husband. It was a test, I realized, a challenge to see how far I'd come. Walking into the venue, I was a bundle of nerves. The hall was decorated tastefully, the air filled with the chatter and laughter of those reunited. My heart seemed to thud louder with each step I took, anxiety gripping me. But then I reminded myself of my journey, of the woman I had become. At the reunion, my eyes found him. My ex-husband. He was as I remembered, his features familiar yet distant. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw something in his gaze I hadn't seen before of regret. Regret for the woman he'd lost, for the life he'd thrown away. I held his gaze, my heart steady. I was no longer the woman he'd left behind, but the woman who had left him. Our paths crossed later during the event, an encounter that felt like a collision of our past and present. His words were laced with remorse, his pleas for forgiveness falling on deaf ears. I looked at him, the man I'd once loved and lost, and felt nothing but indifference. I nodded at him, not in forgiveness, but in recognition of our shared history. His eyes searched mine, begging for something more empathy, pity, love, but I turned away, feeling a sense of finality. This was the end of that chapter, the closing of a book I had reopened one too many times. He looked at me once more, as if trying to memorize my face, before disappearing into the crowd. The party continued around me, an orchestra of laughter and chatter, but I remained at the edge, lost in my thoughts. I absently traced the rim of my glass, the wine crimson and bitter in my mouth, matching the bittersweet symphony of my thoughts. I was alone again, not lonely, but solitary in my world. It was a state of being I had become accustomed to, a familiar cloak that wrapped itself around me. I woke the next morning with a heaviness in my chest. The apartment was silent, save for the intermittent hum of the fridge and the distant noise of the city awakening. I had always loved mornings, the promise they held, the quiet before the day's storm. But today, I felt a strange emptiness, the silence echoing around me, amplifying the void left by his departure. My apartment was a testament to my solitude, filled with my belongings, my tastes, my quirks. I walked around, tracing my fingers over the worn-out pages of my favorite books, the dried flowers he had once given me, the photographs of our shared past. It was like walking through a museum dedicated to our love, a love that had withered with time and circumstance. As the sun streamed in through the windows, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air, I realized I was ready to let go. I was ready to close that chapter, not with anger or bitterness, but with acceptance. Not every love story had a happy ending, but that did not make them any less beautiful or significant. My heart ached with the loss, but it was a dull pain now, one I knew would fade with time. I was ready to start anew, to explore the world and myself, free of the chains of my past. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I immersed myself in my work, my passion for art reigniting with a ferocious intensity. I loved losing myself in the colors and textures, letting the canvas tell its own story. I met new people, forged new connections, felt new feelings. There was a freedom in my life, a sense of liberation that made me feel alive and vibrant. One evening, at an art gallery, I found myself standing before a painting that took my breath away. It was a portrait of a woman, her eyes filled with a sorrow that mirrored my own. The artist had captured her heartache with a raw honesty that resonated within me. I stood there, entranced, the world around me fading into insignificance. "I see you've discovered my favorite piece," a voice said behind me. I turned and found myself looking at a man, his eyes warm and inviting. He was handsome in an unconventional way, his face marked by laughter lines and a hint of a beard. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he asked, his gaze back on the painting. The artist managed to capture an emotion so raw, so visceral, it's as if you can reach out and touch it. I found myself drawn to him, to his genuineness, his passion for art, his depth. There was something about him, something that stirred a feeling within me I had thought long gone. My heart fluttered in my chest, a sensation I was unaccustomed to. As I looked at him, looking at the painting, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I was ready to open my heart again. This was not the end, it was a beginning, a start to a new story, a new journey. And so, standing in that art gallery, a sense of hope blossoming within me, I began a new chapter in the book of my life. I had learned from my past, grown from my pain, and I was ready to face the future, whatever it held. Because I knew that no matter what, I was strong enough to face it, to embrace it. And that was the most beautiful realization of all. I woke the next morning to the feeling of warm sun streaming through the thin curtains of my small apartment. It was early spring, and the world was just beginning to wake from its winter slumber. I could hear the distant hum of the city coming to life, the rhythm of the traffic, the muted noise of people going about their day. It felt like a new beginning, a fresh start, and I was eager to embrace it. I spent the day cleaning and reorganizing, the disorder of my apartment a physical reminder of the tumultuous months that had passed. I changed the sheets on my bed, swept the floors clean, dusted every inch until it sparkled. There was something cathartic about the process, a sense of control I had been missing. I was reclaiming my space, my life, and it felt empowering. As I worked, my mind wandered to him, to the man who had somehow found a place in my heart amidst all the chaos. Ethan. His name was a symphony in my ears, a song I wanted to listen to over and over again. His memory warmed me like the sun outside, and I found myself smiling, my heart lighter than it had been in a long time. As evening fell, I picked up my phone and considered. It was a simple thing, just a few buttons to press, a few words to say. I scrolled through my contacts until I found his name and took a deep breath. Even as I hesitated, I knew what I wanted, what I needed to do. It had taken considerable effort to convince Ethan to meet me for dinner. I could hear the hesitation in his voice, the uncertainty. But I was persistent, and eventually, he agreed, albeit reluctantly. I chose a small Italian restaurant, somewhere quiet and unassuming. I sat at the table, picking at the bread basket, my stomach tied in knots. I felt nervous, excited, scared, all at once. I knew I had to tell him, to share my feelings, but the thought of it left me breathless. I ordered a glass of red wine, hoping it would calm my nerves. When he walked in, I felt my heart flutter. He looked handsome, his dark hair tousled, his eyes warm. He wore a simple white shirt and jeans, but to me, he looked like he belonged on a magazine cover. He greeted me with a smile, and I felt the tension in my shoulders ease a bit. We talked, laughed, shared stories. We fell into an easy rhythm, the conversation flowing naturally. With every passing minute, I felt more and more at ease, the nerves slowly fading away. I saw the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his work, his passion, his dreams. I saw the kindness in his words, the sincerity in his actions. And I knew then that I was falling for him, perhaps had already fallen. The dinner was winding down, the restaurant quieting as patrons started to leave. We were in our own world, undisturbed by the outside. I took a sip of my wine, my heart pounding in my chest. It was now or never. Ethan, I started, my voice wavering a little. He looked at me, his gaze questioning. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. I need to tell you something. What is it? He asked, his voice gentle. I care about you, Ethan, I said, my heart hammering in my chest. More than I thought I would, more than I should. His eyes widened in surprise, but he didn't say anything, just waited for me to continue. The silence stretched, but I pushed on. I know we started as friends, and I don't want to ruin that, I admitted, my words tumbling out in a rush. But I can't ignore these feelings. I don't know what this means, or where it could go. But I had to tell you. I needed to be honest. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, and then, to my great relief, he smiled. A small, gentle smile that reached his eyes, warm and sincere. "I'm glad you did," he said, reaching for my hand over the table. "I feel the same." As his fingers interlaced with mine, a sense of relief washed over me. I had taken a risk, opened myself up, and it was worth it. I knew then that no matter what the future held, I was ready to face it, with him by my side. I walked arm in arm with him, the night air crisp and fresh, carrying the scent of rain and the promise of a new beginning. Our shadows stretched out on the cobblestone street, merging as one while the golden glow from the lampposts danced off wet puddles, creating a magical tableau. My heart was full, brimming with hope and tenderness, a stark contrast to the emptiness I had felt not so long ago. Beside me, the steady pace of his stride was comforting, a silent confirmation of our partnership. We reached my apartment, a quaint old building that had been my sanctuary and my prison. I had spent countless nights within its walls, struggling with my demons, crying myself to sleep. But tonight, it felt different. The worn-out steps leading up to my front door no longer seemed daunting. Instead, they felt like the familiar path leading to my future. I fumbled with my keys, dropping them once due to the mix of anxiety and excitement that was swirling inside me. Picking them up, I felt his hand on mine. His touch was warm, soothing, sending a pulse of electricity throughout my body. He took the keys from me, unlocked the door, and with a smile, gestured for me to enter. Inside my apartment, the silence was deafening. It was like stepping into another world, a world where I was the only inhabitant. I had filled this space with my thoughts, my dreams, my fears, and my hopes, all of them now lying bare in front of him. He walked around, taking in the worn-out couch, the kitchen table that saw more tears than meals, the walls adorned with pictures of my past life. He moved with a quiet reverence, as if understanding that every item had a story to tell, a part of me that had been carefully tucked away. His gaze fell on a painting I had made, a chaotic swirl of blues and blacks. It was a piece I had created during one of my darkest moments when hope seemed like a distant dream. I saw him studying it intently, his brows furrowed in thought. Hesitantly, I walked up to him, ready to share the story behind it. He turned to me, his eyes a mirror reflecting the same pain I had felt while creating it. His hand reached out for mine, the warmth of his touch brushing away the cold remnants of the past. I took a deep breath and began to tell him the story, my voice trembling at first but gradually growing stronger. It was a story of despair, of loss, of finding myself. His eyes never left mine, his grip on my hand reassuring me, telling me that it was okay to share, to open up. In that moment, I realized how far I had come. I was no longer the woman who hid behind walls, who shied away from her emotions. I was standing here, bearing my soul, my vulnerability turning into my strength. And he was here, standing beside me, ready to share this journey, to be a part of my world. As the night grew darker, we moved to the rooftop, a place that held a special place in my heart. It was here that I had spent countless nights watching the stars, finding solace in their silent company. But tonight, the rooftop held a different charm. It was not just me and the stars anymore, it was us and the universe. We sat on the ground, a comfortable silence stretching between us. The soft hum of the city below us was a soothing lullaby while the cool breeze rustled through our hair. I could feel his warmth seeping into me, his presence next to me, not as an intrusion but as a part of my space. I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder. His arm wrapped around me, pulling me closer. We were two souls lost in the vast expanse of the universe, yet right here, right now, we had found a home in each other. The stars above seemed to twinkle a little brighter, the moon a little fuller, their celestial glow casting a beautiful luminescence around us. He held me tighter, our hearts beating in sync with the rhythm of the universe. This was it, the moment I had longed for, the moment of acceptance, of understanding, of love. As his lips brushed against my forehead, a sense of peace washed over me. I closed my eyes, surrendering to this moment, this feeling. I knew then, with absolute certainty, that no matter what the future held, I was ready to face it, with him by my side. I found myself tracing the intricate patterns in the wrought iron railings of the rooftop, my fingers following the cold, metallic swirls as they had done countless times before. I could see the city spread out below me, a spider's web of lights, and the odd car gliding noiselessly along the glistening wet streets. The air was heavy with the scent of rain, a perfume that had always comforted me. It was strangely quiet, with the city sounds muted by the blanket of night. Beside me, his presence a warm counterpoint to the cold iron, stood David. The silence between us was layered, both comforting and strained. I could feel the tension in his shoulders, an echo of the turmoil I knew he was experiencing. We were both navigating uncertainty, but it was a shared journey that somehow made it less daunting. David turned to face me, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that took my breath away. "I love you," he said simply. His confession hung between us, raw and unfiltered, the edges softened by the gentle patter of rain on the rooftop tiles. I found my breath hitching, taken aback by his honesty. I'd known it, of course, but hearing it out loud stirred a swirl of emotions within me. I led David inside, to the sanctuary of my apartment. The room was softly lit, the glow from the fireplace casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. There was comfort in the familiar, the well-worn furniture, and the faded photographs that told stories of a life lived. Yet, there was also a sense of the unfamiliar, a sense of transition. I could feel the shift in our dynamics, a tangible tension that seemed to hang in the air. In the quiet moments that passed, I found myself drifting to the piano in the corner of the room, my fingers instinctively grazing the keys. The notes filled the room, each one a soft brushstroke painting a picture of our shared past. Every melody, every rhythm, was a memory etched in time, a moment that held significance for both of us. David, watching me with a softness in his eyes, moved to sit beside me. We fell into an easily shared silence, the music our only form of communication. It was in these moments I realized that we truly understood each other. There was a bond that went beyond words, beyond mere physical attraction. It was a shared rhythm, a shared pulse that connected us intrinsically. As the last notes of the melody faded into the night, I turned to David. His eyes met mine, and in their depths, I saw the reflection of my own emotions. "David," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, "you're not alone in this. I love you too." The admission seemed to hang in the air between us, a shared confession that was both a balm and a catalyst. David's expression softened, his eyes shimmering with a mix of relief and something I dared not name. He reached out to cup my face, his touch gentle, as if I were something precious. "I know," he murmured, his thumb tracing my lower lip. "I've always known." His admission shook me to my core. It was a profound realization, an understanding that our souls had recognized each other long before we had, and that they had been bound together in a dance of love and longing. We spent the rest of the night wrapped up in each other, sharing confessions, fears, and dreams. We talked, we laughed, we cried. It was an emotional purge, a cleansing of the soul that left us feeling raw and exposed, but also liberated. As the first rays of the morning sun filtered through the windows, a sense of calm washed over me. The city was waking up, the world was moving on, and we were moving on with it. But we were not the same people we had been yesterday. We had changed, grown, evolved. The uncertainty still lingered, but it was no longer a daunting shadow. It was a challenge, a hurdle to overcome together. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we were. Together. And that was enough. I looked at David, his face illuminated by the golden morning light, and smiled. "We'll figure this out," I promised him. "Together." He returned my smile, his eyes filled with love and understanding. And in that moment, I knew that everything was going to be all right. Because we were not alone. We had each other. And that made all the difference.